Hello everyone, it's my new screencast how I'm working on prototype of idle lines game. Today I'm going to implement new feature. Let me remind what game I have. This game is a mix of classic lines 98 and some kind of idle mechanics when we upgrade chips on the field. Now I'm working on lines prototype. So we can select chip, mode, and we have to match 5 in a row at the current state. This settings can be different, but now it's 5 in a row. So when we put this 5 chip in a row with the same color, they will disappear. Now I have to implement new feature. It's about next chips. This mechanics assume that we can see what chips will be next. So this means that next the chips will be red, yellow, and purple. And also we know about at which place these chips will be. This color is not fit this color, but they have to be the same. So red, red, yellow, yellow, and pink, pink. So we can see next chips there and on the field. Let's start to work on this task. Okay, what I need? I need data at first. Let's close this previous task. So I need some data where I'll store next chip colors and next chip positions. I will create new class for that. And I'm going to call it next chips data. So what we will have there? This we will have chip info, which describe only color, chip colors. It's some kind of prototype for chip. So this is concrete chip, but this is like, so we can have several red chips, but some super type like red chip, it's always single. So this is like super type chips. Let's create it in constructor, and we will store chips position. As our position linked to field cell, I just will store this board cell. So I can create tuple here. So this will be pairs like chip info and board cell, and there will be 3 instances of these tuples. Or I can create 2 fields, and I assume that they link by indexes. So first chip there linked to first board cell there. I'm not sure what is better there. So let's start from what is better. I think it's better to make as less as possible assumption in mind. So board cells like this. It contains information about links between chip, info, and board cell. It's pretty obvious that they linked by index in previous case. But let's do like this. Okay. I think it's all data which we need there. So now I need system which will work with this data and do logic. Let's call it next chips system. Something like that. And let's add both these classes to injector. It's related to logic only, so it's not related to visual. That's why I am adding it to this part. Next chip system. I instantiate this class and bind it to general injection system and next chips data. Okay. So what next chip system must do? It must select 3 random chips for next step. Let's call select next chips. And I'll take all chips info which I have, and I'm going to use random utils which allow to me take this will take without repeating, but we can do this. It can repeat. It can be there 3 yellow chips, for instance, so it's not okay. At first I have to inject data. So I'll have access to this structure, and I have to clear, and I have let's put this constant path static int next chips amount. So if we will need in the future to increase number of next chips or decrease, we can change this constant. So now we get all chips info, which we have all chips super types, and select randomly from this list of chips. And we have to link it to some empty board cell. So we need access to board. Let's inject board system I need to get random. I need to get empty. Select random empty cells amount. So I can make this function public and use it. There is one issue that I try to number of chips amount, but there I take all three chips and all three empty board cells, and I can't do this method here, because if I call like this, select randomly empty cell single, it will be possible that when I go there several times, it can return me the same board cell, but I must have three different empty cells there. So I'll take it like this, and I'm going to add tuple chip info and empty board cells, which is size of this list is 3. It's equal to this, so I can easily use index there. So now I selected randomly 3 empty board cells and 3 chips. Now I have to call this method. When I must do this, I think I have to do this after put next chip. So I'll inject. I think I'll create later some base class with phases, which will use this board system and next chip system, and it will call, at first it will call put next chips, then it will call select next chips and some updates and another phases method. But now I just put this here and I'll refactor this later. So I'm injecting next chip system, and when I put next chips to the field, then I select new next chips. So it's okay. I think it's okay now. Now I have to show this 3 chips on the field. At first I can show it on this board. I need this sprite. I don't have them in the project now. Let's check. Do we have it as separated sprites? No, but I can try to export. I'm not sure that they will be exported as separated image here. Great. Okay. Let's export them to the project. Let's create separated folder. Items. View. Import it to the project. Add settings. Pixel per unit 1. I don't need any physics, and I have to rename it accordingly to this. So this red is 1, orange is 2, orange 2, yellow 3, light green 4. Green 5, then blue 6, light blue 7, the light blue 7, purple and pink. And pink. Okay. And I need to assign all this visual presentation to chips. I have a chip info with all this graded sprites. So now I must create new field there and call it preview. So now I have preview, and I can assign to each chip info this information. Preview 2, preview 3, preview 6, some kind of resources management work. Not usually interested. This is what neural network should do. So it should understand that do the same things. repeat this accordingly. Okay, now we have preview for it in each chip info. And I need some prefab for field, for board. It will be sprite. So let's take some prefab which I have, and it's like just sprite render. Next chip preview. Have board and probably 2 order in layer. Let's check this 0, chip 2, power prints 1, and it can be 1 too. Because it lets it be 2. So it will be above power prints. Okay, let's select some. So okay, it will be look like this. Okay, now we create prefab, and I am deleting this, and I need to assign this prefab to board render data. Next chip preview prefab. So I will instantiate it using this prefab. Okay, I don't need this, and I need now render system, board render system, and I must create 3 prefabs based on 3 chips. I can destroy previous 3 and create 3 new, or I can just change position of the 3 preview sprites, so I don't need to instantiate it again and again. So I can create the list the preview, next chip previews. So it will contain 3 sprite renderer, and I will reuse them. Update, next chips. But somewhere I have to create them at first. So it can be like if data next chip previews count 0. So I have not created this before. I can do this. Object instantiate next chip preview prefab. it will be sprite renderer. And I can add this to list. And I must to do this 3 times, or next chips amount times. So this will be like first initialization. And then I will use this sprite renderers, but I will change sprite. Update next chips. It will get next chips data. So I have chips, and I can so I'm going to iterate through chips amount, and I'm going to take this tuple item 1. Okay, let me check, can I make it named chip and cell. Great, I don't, it generate me class. Great, I like it, but that will be like this. So chip contains preview sprite in chip info, which we assigned in editor. So we have sprite, and we can take now data next chip previews sprite, and we can assign it to generated random sprite. This first, and next we have to change sprite parent and sprite position. This preview sprite parent and preview sprite position. So we can do following. We take transform and call set parent, and parent is the cell where this preview be placed. And I have, but it's not like cell, it's visual cell. I need to take visual cell. So I'll use cell visual map, and I take next chip data, chips I cell. So by cell, it's logical cell. I take visual cell, it's game object. In the then, it's board cell visual. So and now I can set parent cell visual transfer. And I think I have to set the false to reset current position. Let's check. Okay, I can check this. That can be enough. Okay, when I should call update next chip function. I should call it when this data be updated. So I need event for this. Okay, let's go to gameplay events. And add some event here. Public static game event. Next, chips data. Next, chips changed. And create instance of this event. So next, chips changed. And now I initialize and I'll subscribe to this event. So signature of this action is equal to signature of this function. So we subscribe to this event, and when it will be published, it can type safety to put there this data, and we can work with it. But now the latest one, who will be published this event? This is not obvious one. I have data change detection system, and it's some kind of workaround which I'm trying to use. It's new to me, and I don't like property changed approach in C#. It's not convenient totally. I don't like it. And this project I decided to handle data changed manually and make all the systems clear as possible. So let's try to write this data change detection logic. First I need next chip data structure. Okay, and then I have to write some code which will compare this with some local copy. Something like that. So I'll copy this. I copied this structure. Tuples with list of chips, chip info, but I really don't like to compare it items by items. How can I do this easily? I'm thinking. Next, chips data. It's list, and link has some let's try chips. If I remember correctly, links extraction had something useful there. Sequence equal. How it works? It should compare. But how it will compare tuples? Let's try. So if it works bad, it will return false again and again in each update, and I will get many even spawning. Let write the log to check this. Okay, if sequence equal, it's old next chip data and chips. Why you don't like this? Oh, sorry, it's next chip data and next chip data chips compare with all next chip data. If it's not equal, we have some changes. I can just no, I can't. If I assign this, it will be the same reference to the same list, and when I update items in this list, it will be updated there too, because it will be the same list. So it should be now the list which I will create there. It will be separated list, new, and I will assign it but by like this. So I'll copy all these items to this new list, and there I'll declare and add range. So I'll copy. I'm not copy. I add references of these tuples to this list. So when it will be changed there will store the latest instances of these tuples. And I publish event. Next, chips data. If I done all correctly, it should work now. Let's test. Yes, we can see that we have 3 items, 3 sprites which placed on empty cells. Let's move something. New 3 sprite. It doesn't work like so. When we make move, this preview is not became chip because I have not implemented this logic. It just generated 3 new, but not put it. Okay, let's do this logic too. Now, the next step is to create instantiate new chips on these cells based on next chips information. This should be in border system there. So when how can I do? I can use select next chips structure to create. I must do this, but how about first step? First steps, I can select next chips. It will be instantiated in and all these phases passed, but then I immediately instantiate it, create chip based on next chips, and then select next chip again. And it will work at the correct state of the game because I don't have any animations and async tasks. So when we start the game, it created these three chips and these three next chips. But all this will be done in animations later. It will be better. So I don't want to do this like this. Should be like this. Public void put first chips. Like this. So I select random empty cells and create random chips. Then I have to create and select next chips. Then when I make move, this logic be different. I need chip and cell, and I have this information in next chip data. So I'm going to iterate through this data. Okay, I have chip info and cell. And now I have to create chip based on chip info. Let's check how. Just create new chip based on chip info. Okay, it's easy. New chip. I put the chip info. I don't use any pools now. And probably I will not need it because it's not dynamic game. So I create chip based on chip info and I put chip to cell and I use chip and cell and select next chip. It should work. And I have to call this instead this in the game pipeline. Let's check it. So now when I move this chip to another cell, this chip's preview must become the real chips. Let's check. Yes, it works. And I have to implement one more rule there, because when I can move this chip to cells with preview, and there will be error in the current implementation. Let's try. Yeah, I got assertion failure. So I try to put chip on the not empty cell, and now we have broken state. So additional logic. So let's back to board system and add additional logic. So there, if after move we have previously generated next chips, but field state was changed, and this cell can be not empty now. And if it is empty, I can do this, but if it's not empty, I have to select next empty. Now the empty cell randomly. So I ask board again empty cells, or I can use select random empty cells and take one. It returns list, but I know that list contains single element, so I take it, or I can use first, or I can even use single. So this is better, I think. And I put chip to cell with this empty cell, and I see issues there. This logic will not work in all cases, because this method can return empty cell, but this empty cell can be cell from another next chip. So like this, we have 3 cells for next chips. We can move this there. So this cell became not empty. And we try to select another empty cell randomly. And this logic can select this on this, but it should not select these 2 cells. And I put this there, it selects this cell, it became not empty, so I should select new empty for this, and it will broke totally next chip's logic. So I should select random empty cell, but not that cell which there. How can I solve this? First approach, I can ask select random empty cells instead cells from this structure. So I can extend method which can which get list of excluded cells, but I don't like this. Too much logic. I should change. Another way I can put all not empty at first, so I can do following. Is it empty? So I can do following. If cell is empty, I put chip to cell, and so I fill all these cells which is empty, and then I randomly select another empty cells, and in this case I can't select this because they became empty. So I can iterate to this again. But how I can know that? So this cell is not empty now. After I put chip to cell, it became not empty. And I should know that I have put this chip to the cell. Or I can just store this not empty information. I can do this. Like this. So if it's empty, I put it, and if it's not empty, I just add chip info. Like this. Or I even can create chip there. Let's do this. Chip. This is first pass. Next pass will be from not empty cell chips. So, and there I can just select random empty cell and put it. Let's check this logic again. So I create new not empty cell chips, and when I iterate through chips and create chip based on chips info, and if cell is empty, I just put this chip to cell. But if it's not empty, I don't put anything and append it to not empty cell chips list. And then when all cells which were empty is filled, I do another path through not empty cells chips, and now for each such chip I select a random empty cell. Do I need to use such logic? Probably I can just take empty cell and select one. Like this. I take all empty cells and select one randomly and fill it. Then I put this chip to this empty cell. Then I do this again. If it's several, I probably can't be more than one here because I move single chip. but let's do this more universal. Okay, it should work now. Let's test. Okay, now we have 3 preview. Okay, they appear. Let's check again. Okay, now let's put this here. So this two should appear there, but this one will select randomly another empty cell. This one? Let's try again. Yeah, this one. Yeah, it works. Let's fill well filled. So it works. I just have one border condition. But this about end level detection logic, and I will improve this later when I will implement this logic. Now I have to do another task, another part of this task. It's showing this part of information. I have to create, this will be on the UI. I use the sprite renderer and I'm going to use the canvas and image. So I have to create some control there, UI layout. Let's do this. I have canvas and I'm going to create some widget or view. Let's call it field progress view. This will be just this information. It will show best score, current score, next chips, and it will have buttons under a start header. Just this, not this. Let's do some UI work. So I create view, I create content, which will be hide or visible. And now I have to make some. I'm not going to create this and this. I just make panel. Let's add image. Let's take color, this color. And we can try to take height. What's the height? Okay, I'll do this approximately about, and let's move this panel there. I'm going to create new view for this. field progress view base, and this view display assign content. This view will display information. I'm going to add 3 images there. Next, chips. Image. Next chip 1. Next chip 2. And next chip 3. And this will be horizontal layout group. I'm going to align it left, middle left. Okay, this 60 by 60. Let's do this. 8. All of them should be. I don't need request target, maskable, but I need to preserve aspect. Great. It looks too small. Is it okay? Let's select different colors. Okay, something like this. And field progress view. Have list with images. No, not list. Just array. Next, chips images. And on awake, I'm going to subscribe to this next chips changed event. Next chip changed, subscribe, next chip changed. Or I can call this, I can give another name to this function. Refresh next chips. Next chips data. So now I can write for int like this, and next chips images sprite chips chip sprite. Oh no, I need sprite there. So I have to show sprite chip info sprite based on current level of this chip. So I need to inject some system there. Chip. I don't remember how I call it. Upgrade chip system. Like this, and I need upgrade chip system. Get sprite. Data chips I chip sprite chip sprite. Or I can just do a single line. Refresh next. Refresh next chips. This can be easy. So now what I need to do is set to injector. As I use inject there, I should add fill progress view to injector. Views injector bint. Find the object of time as a sen. I don't create it because it's a sen object. Unity will create it. So I have put this game pipeline to injector, and let's test how it works now. Oh yeah, I have not assigned next chip images. So let's assign 1, 2, and 3. And this is the single place where it links, because UI links to chips images amount. And if we change this constant, if we increase it, it will not work there. But this is a single place where not properly linked. But if we want to make it dynamically, we can create prefab from this image and instantiate and game start needed amounts of these images. Okay, let's check again. Okay, I see red, blue, and orange. Red, blue, orange. I see green. Okay, it looks good. It looks good. So, have I finished this task? It's not animated because, of course, there will be fade in, fade out animations, and all will be more smooth. And no other effects, but at the current state, it's good enough, I think. So, I have finished this task. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.